What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Totski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So Treasure Map is finally concluded, and now we can turn our attention to the upcoming Pirate Alliance Kizuna clash. Now this is going to be a Super Boss Kizuna, however in this particular video, I'm only going to be looking at the 10-star difficulty of the Kizuna, and I will make a separate video in regards to the Super Boss and kind of different teams we can kind of think about that will get the job done against it. I mean, the Super Boss is definitely the more important of these two different bosses, but this video, you need to still grind that 10-star difficulty or the other difficulties if you're into that kind of thing, in order to get the Super Boss coins to actually play the Super Boss. So if this is your first Kizuna clash, what you see in this video are going to be the 10-star difficulty. There is going to be easier difficulties like a 3-star and a 5-star difficulty that you can go ahead and try and take on. It will be much easier for you to clear, but I know that for a lot of the established players that they want to go ahead and beat the 10-star difficulty most of the time anyway, so that's what this video is going to be pertaining about. So let's go ahead and jump over to the Kizuna Clash crew. We'll have a look at all those. These are the super evolutions that we can get access to. Rob Lucci skulls will be available, which is dope. The new free-to-play Luffy that we got from the Blitz battle, the INT Luffy, will be super evolving into Dex Luffy, as well as the Yamato from the recent co-op quest event from the Sugo Fest there, the Grand Feast Sugo. The Yamato will be super evolving. You can get those skulls from there as well. So without further ado, let's actually jump into the Kizuna Clash. We're going to start things off with the Versus Quick Variation. So the Versus Quick Variation is the first of the normal difficulties that you'll come up against. So this first team that we're looking at here is going to be abusing Double Roger as our captain. So if you were lucky enough to get Roger, you could run a team such as this. So ideally what we would be doing is we'd activate one of the Rogers on stage 2, which gives us attack, orb, and affinity buff for 2 turns that can't be removed by the opponent or your effects. And then we can just use 2 Roger effects or EX supers to extend the duration of those buffs by an additional 2 turns. So it's going to be 4 turns of attack, orb, and color affinity. And that's going to be super strong. We'd also use the Whitebeard special to generate the full board of tandem slots for the crew, which is kind of nice, as well as the chain boundary effect. And then when we move into that next stage, there's going to be like a lot of nasty effects that are occurring, and this team, or all the teams you see in this video, are going to be able to beat level 31 and above. If you are obviously playing Kizuna for the first time, the gimmicks for the boss are much easier in the first 30 levels. When you go past that, the gimmicks get slightly more difficult. So the koala on this team is actually pretty important, as it has the effect of being able to remove the recoverable HP amount inverse healing effect. So any healing you get is turned into damage instead, and that's obviously a pretty big detriment to your crew. So by abusing the koala special, you can remove that effect, as well as granting a 30,000 heal, and that is important because there is a pain debuff. So every time you activate a special, you take 3,000 damage, as well as past level 30 is going to be a 90% health cut to the crew. So you're not going to have a lot of HP. You need to get around that somehow, and this koala is one really good way of doing that. The Shanks special allows you to remove the barriers, as well as just generate matching slots for the crew. And then Luffy is kind of here because you do need a Luffy on this team, but the thing is the enemy does have an effect where they only take 50% of their max HP. They do have a damage limiter. You can only deal 50% of their health. So Luffy has a special which removes damage threshold, because on the secondary turn, the enemy does inflict a 4 turns of damage threshold. This Luffy is able to remove that. So you just need someone in order to do that. That's kind of important, obviously. And we are using just the anniversary ship as well, which can just be a really nice ship to give you additional berries and, of course, more EXP. And by abusing Double Roger, you will actually get quite a lot of EXP by clearing these bosses. So the secondary team for the Versus Quick Variation is going to be using the 10th Anniversary Ace as the main captain, and the friend captain will be the brand new Kizuna Clash Legend S Snake. That is kind of really nice to have that as a unit here, because this whole content is kind of revolved around that unit, and being able to not only deal with the chain attack downs that are inevitably inflicted on multiple stages in this Kizuna, but also having the ability in that special to remove the or the recovery inverse effect, as well as making or just removing the negative slot effects on your crew completely. So if the enemy inflicts you with an effect that makes certain slots badly matching, then you can use the S-Snake special to remove that. S-Snake also grants like a really good chain boost, and if you have like a Hancock or a Luffy that have launched their special before S-Snake, you also get additional buffs because of that. So, you know, if you're able to abuse that kind of mechanic, it does make the team just that much better. So the way that this team is going to work is that Sanji's really good because Sanji can remove the defense on stage 2, generate a full board of recovery slots which are not counted as badly matching for the crew, so that's dope. And then you can switch him to the captain, use his EX super, and then, you know, use his EX super to switch him back to the sub. So Sanji just provides a lot of damage on stage 2, which is nice. And then when you reach the final stage, using the S-Snake special is important to remove the anti-healing or inverse healing effect, as well as making you know, any badly matching slots are just removed. Also the super type to grant you with healing effects, and then you got the super swap of Luffy Yamato, which is kind of nice too, to grant a really strong orb boost. And that's really cool too, because it means when you activate Ace's special, because you already have an orb boost activated, it will actually go ahead and grant a conditional boost instead, so it's going to give you quite a lot of additional damage. And then you've got the EX super of Ace, which can provide you with an attack buff as well. Sabo is just kind of here because he triggers the EX super of Ace, and we needed a unit to do that, so that unit is actually replaceable. And Rob and Jinbei are kind of nice because they do deal with the special reverse that does occur on this stage, but the thing is, using Ace as a captain, you kind of just deal with the special reverse anyway, so that's not really a big issue. So that's this team versus the quick variation. Obviously, this team that you're looking at right now is much better because you do have S-Snake as the friend, meaning you will get additional super boss coins, I think. But definitely you do get more Kizuna tickets for clearing the bosses with S-Snake on the crew. So overall, a really strong team that shouldn't have too many issues in the earlier levels of the Kizuna Clash. Now we can have a look at the secondary boss, which is versus the side variation. So this first team you're looking at here is going to be using double 6+ Bonney as our main captains here. Now, for what we're doing to actually get around this content is on stage number 2, this Robin you're seeing on the crew. You can actually get this Robin for free by spending 100 Sugo medals in the Sugo medal exchange. This Robin's really good for stage 2 because she does remove 5 turns of burn and 5 turns of attack down. Now there is another detrimental effect on stage 2 where the enemy gives you 3 turns of a 2.25 chain lock, which isn't that great. However, if you do remove it on stage 2, the enemy will interrupt and give you other nasty effects. So you kind of just have to tank that hit on that stage. Of course, there are supports that do remove that, which may not trigger the interrupt, but in my opinion, I feel like if you have a support to do that and then you activate a special, I believe the enemy will then still check to see whether you have your chain lock activated, because anytime you don't have a chain lock activated, the enemy will interrupt and inflict bad stuff to you. So in my opinion, the best way forward is to just tank the chain lock on stage 2 and then remove it on stage 3. Honestly, that's the best way to go about it. Another thing that you would do on stage 2 with this team is that you would use your captain's super type and special. You keep the friend captains for later, which is actually kind of important. So you use your Bonney super type and special. When you go ahead and reach the final stage, your captain will be switched out for one of the characters in the middle row. So that's why I was saying you want to use the super type and the special of your captain, so you can have the super type of your friend captain, because that will be important, because you do get a bit of special reverse. So the Bonney friend captain will give herself cooldown, the Bonney special will give cooldown for the rest of the crew. You can then go ahead and use Nami to remove any chain locks on your crew or negative chain debuffs. And then from that point, you could go ahead and use the Sabo Koala special to remove the non-matching slots on your crew, as well as granting a solid attack boost as well as Bonney providing good color affinity, and then with Trafalgar Law giving an orb boost to all INT characters, and also happens to be Cerebral. So this is a full INT Cerebral team. Of course, you would switch into Koala for their effect to make sure that you can become INT as well. But yeah, you get the attack boost, you'll have an orb boost, you'll have a color affinity, and then also by using Nami special to remove some of the debuffs, you have the Sanji support on Nami to grant a very minor chain boosting effect. So it's not the most OP team ever, but it does get around the gimmicks, and it does use some relatively accessible units, I would say, to get around this boss. Taking a look at the secondary team that I have versus the Psy variation, we are going to be using S-Snake as our friend captain once again. So with this team using Luffy as the captain this time around, the way that we would get around some of the gimmicks here, so we do use Robin once again. The Robin and Nami combo are really solid, especially for this team because that already helps you fulfill 2 slots for your EX Super for Luffy, which is really nice. Now, because we're using S-Snake as the friend captain, the captain of S-Snake does remove burn duration completely. So realistically, Robin can be replaced by just an attack down remover, but, you know, we got this Robin character, we might as well use her, so you can use her to remove the attack down and the burn on stage 2, but if you're using S-Snake as the friend, you don't need the unit to remove burn, you can just remove attack down instead. And then with this team, we would also use Luffy special on stage 2, because that is going to go ahead and give us a full board of int slots, but the fact that he has the anti-swapping effect in his, like slot swapping effect in his special, is going to be nice to negate the anti-slot swapping effect from the enemy on stage 3. So when that actually moves into the next stage, you're not going to be hit with that effect where you can't change some certain slots because Luffy just enables you to not even have to worry about that, which is really dope. And then the thing is when you actually move into that next stage where one of the characters in your middle row will be switched into the captain position, what you can do is you see in this position right here, we have Vegapunk. Now, what happens is when the enemy activates the effect to switch your captain position, hypothetically, if they do target this position, before the animation occurs where the captain gets switched, you can reset the game. And what happens is when that will reset, it will automatically always pick this slot. So that means, just depending on what happens, you can always have this character in this middle right position always become switched into the captain, which is what we would abuse in this instance. So if you see in the preemptive attack, Sanji being targeted for the captain swapping effect, you can reset the game. When you reboot the game, Vegapunk will be the character that gets selected instead. So that will make Vegapunk the captain during that short time period in the stage 3. And that's going to be really nice because Vegapunk's actually got a pretty good set of skills, and Vegapunk will allow you to just generate lots of advantage that way rather than using Sun Goro. Now, of course, there is the special reverse that does occur, which is why I do have Sun Goro to give us cooldown reduction, but he also gives us a color affinity to our cerebral characters. I think it's, oh no, it's to our int characters. I think it's int or dex characters get the color affinity boost, which is good because S-Snake is also dex. And of course, because we've used Luffy on the previous stage, Luffy's attack boost will still be activated. You can also use Luffy's EX special on stage 2 because he's going to be captain swapped anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then Vegapunk special can give buffs to basically the whole team except for Luffy, because Luffy isn't a cerebral character. Yes, you can transform him into cerebral, but you do need a full int team in order to do that. And S-Snake as a friend captain is not an int character, so that is a bit of a shame there. But either way, you can still use Luffy's rush at the start and then just finish all your taps and then let S-Snake do the final combo hit. So you can do some cool stuff that way anyway. But of course, there is going to be the special reverse stuff, so Sun Goro deals with that. We have Nami to get rid of the chain debuff, Snake special to make our slots matching and chain boost and all that other good stuff, the super type removing chain attack down, and then we have Vegapunk for other additional effects that we may need. So this is also a pretty solid team. I don't know if it's the best way to go about it. I'm not 100% sure exactly what the best teams are going to be thus far, but I'm just trying to give you guys some ideas that you may want to employ to actually beat these bosses. Okay, so moving on to the final boss is the int variation. This first team we're looking at is going to be using both the 6-star and the 6-star plus Luffy as the 2 captains. So ideally the friend captain would be the 6-star Luffy. If you don't have Luffy super evolved, you can use your own 6-star Gear 5 Luffy and then have the 6-star plus as the friend captain. And that is important that you run the hybrid of these 2 captains because you've got this Luffy deals with despair and all of his other cool stuff, but the 6-star Luffy is arguably the more important character for this content, because that character has an effect that when your HP falls to 0, you will revive. And on the enemy side of the field, when you kill the boss on stage 3, they do like a massive death hit to your crew. So unless you have a really good way to reduce that damage, you need a way to revive it or tank it, and Gear 5 Luffy can do that. Alternatively, you can just run a character that has like huge damage reduction or nullification. But you do remember, if you use the EX Super of the 6-star Luffy, you don't get your damage reduction effect or the revival. So this team utilizes 6-star Luffy without using his EX Super. The 6-star plus you can use that EX super. That's not going to be a problem. But this has a really weird gimmick on stage 2 where they actually give you really big beneficial chain buffs, but then they say, oh, by the way, here's a chain attack down where if your chain exceeds 3.25, then you don't get any damage. So the way that we're going to be dealing with this is by using this Sanji special. You don't have to specifically use this Sanji, but just having an effect that can give you a chain lock that is less than 3.25. So a 3 times chain lock, 2.75, 2.5 chain lock. Just you want a chain lock that is less than 3.25, and you want it to only last for like 1 to 2 turns. You don't want to make it last for more than that. So by doing that, it means that we can actually get around that chain attack down that gets inflicted on stage 2. And we also have Kid and Killer we would use on stage 2 as well, because the enemy does have a tandem slot barrier. Kid, we can switch into Law, get the super swap, use Law special, which will activate the effect of giving us a full board of tandem slots, so we can use that to bypass that stage. And then when we reach the final stage, there is another set of chain attack down and a really big hit of burn, like 7 turns of burn or something. Shirahoshi Manchiri would use their special for a huge heal, as well as removing the burn and the chain attack down on the crew, so Shirahoshi Manchiri are pretty busted. And then you can use the 6+ Luffy special, the 6+ Luffy EX Super, the unevolved Luffy special, which remember, because he doesn't transform into Gear 5, the 6-star Luffy will only give you color affinity, not color affinity and orb boost. So we do need an orb booster still for the crew, which is why I have Zora here, and that's the way that this team counters that content. You kill the boss, you take a death hit, 6-star Luffy revives. So there's actually something that I did forget to mention about this Gear 5 team, and it's the fact that when you kill stage 2, one of your characters on your bottom row is switched into the captain position, and that's going to be pretty nasty. So what I've done here is I have switched out the Zoro for Chopper instead, and what this means is that Chopper's special will grant resistance down on the opponent. It removes 7 turns of burn, which is key, but then you also have the Shirahoshi Manchiri special, which has the effect that can remove up to 2 debuffs by 10 turns. So now you can remove the chain attack down, and you can remove the captain switching position, which I do believe will be classified as a debuff. So by using Shirahoshi and Manchiri, it will remove the captain swap, which puts Luffy back as your captain, and then you can apply the rest of your specials to go ahead and get that win against the opponent. Okay, so having a look now at the final team versus the INT variation that we have for this video is going to be using the 10th anniversary Shanks as our main captain, with the friend captain of S-Snake once again. Now, this team, in terms of the way that it works, now, Gordon on the team here is actually really cool. This Gordon basically almost single-handedly deals with everything on stage 2 by himself. He changes his own slot and adjacent slots into tandem, as well as giving you a 2.75 chain lock, so you can just get through all of the barriers, the chain related stuff, all by himself. Now there is another component here where, of course, when you kill this stage, one of your bottom row units is switched into the captain positions, so we can kind of get around this with this Uta. This Uta special switches herself into the captain position, and then if we have her EX Super activated, which we do because we have a Shanks, we have a Luffy, we have a Gordon, so the EX Super will be activated. We can use the EX Super when we reach the last stage to remove her captain swapping components, but it also guarantees delay against the opponent, and then Uta's special, when you've launched on stage 2, will grant you a delayed conditional boost, so you get a lot of damage that way. In terms of the rest of the crew, in terms of how you get around everything, so after Gordon special, Uta special, and then you kill stage 2, use the Uta super type to become the sub once again, make Shanks become the captain. Now, an important component as well is we do have the S-Snake as the friend, with that special ability to give like chain buff, removing beneficial, non-beneficial slots, and all of her amazing effects. The super class to remove the chain attack downs. Shanks' EX does remove the enemy's intimidation, which is cool, as well as giving a huge orb boost. Shanks special for color affinity. And then we also have the Hancock here, because she's just a really good unit you can use. You don't have to use her at all. Hancock is not required. The Luffy is kind of here as well. Like, he's cool, but again, like, it's just kind of filler units to secure the EX Super to make sure that it is activatable here. So the Luffy and the Hancock on the team are pretty replaceable, but the core of Shanks, Uta, and Gordon just kind of get around most things with the friend captain of S-Snake. So as long as you can replace the Luffy and the Hancock and you still are able to activate your EX Super, that is the most important component here for this team. So it's a pretty interesting team composition for sure, and it doesn't have the best synergies, you know, with S-Snake and Shanks, you know, despite those two units working together, but it's the fact that you have the Uta on the team just to kind of get around the captain swapping mechanics. It is a little annoying that is a component of this piece of content, but you know, Uta, while it doesn't have the best synergy with S-Snake, it does allow you to get around the gimmicks just a lot easier, as well as, you know, perform all of the effects with Shanks and Uta and Gordon all working simultaneously together. So with all that being said, that is going to wrap it up from me. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.